Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick, spiritual life coach and your host of Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal, but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their voices and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. If you haven't already, join me over on Her Inspirations, where we are finishing off week 3 and going into week 4 of Flow into 2024. I created this series for us to gently move into the new year, having built the foundation on what we've achieved and what we want to achieve and the changes that we need to make, as opposed to just leaping into the year on the 1st of January and trying to scramble things together. Do come over to Her Inspirations to listen into the series, and also you can listen to previous weeks and also join the mailing list so that you can receive the specially created journal pages that are available to you every week. And don't worry if you've missed it, because every week you'll have the opportunity to catch up on the previous week's pages. My guest this week is Isabel Gondar. She coaches spiritual entrepreneurs to let go of their limiting beliefs, their lack of confidence and overwhelm. She uses a combination of holistic mindset coaching and energy healing so that they can authentically grow an online presence and attract their soul clients. During our conversation, Isabel talks about how ancestral and generational trauma holds entrepreneurs back, how we can sell soulfully, and knowing your worth when it comes to pricing products and services. So as always, I begin by asking my guest. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
I feel it most when I do some practice, usually yoga, or I'm in nature. That's when I feel the most connection.
Perfect. Isabel, before we go deeper into our conversation today, can you just share what has happened in your life that's brought you to this point? What's like the journey? What was the changing point for you?
I would say that the changing point was probably the moment I moved to England, because I was moving away from everything that I knew. So I come from a big family. We are 10 brothers and sisters. And my parents were very strict Catholics. So I was brought up in this education where everything is very strict and I wasn't allowed to do much. So when I moved to England, I came with my partner. I was pregnant for the first time. So it was a major change. And I started to explore things that I'd never explored before. I also had my sister here in London, and she was a yoga teacher. So she was open to other things that I wasn't at the time. So we had beautiful conversations, and I started to open up to other ideas, other ways to see the world. And I think that was my biggest turning point. So I started to connect with other philosophies. I started to reflect on who I am, who brought me here, what were the struggles at the moment, and why was I having those struggles. So I've started to basically reflect on my life and what was happening. So that was when I had my biggest awakening. And I started to look at spirituality in the broad sense of it.
So what got you into doing the work that you're doing now? Where did that spring from?
Yeah, that came from that biggest awakening, because I was a young mom. I was in a new country, not having the family and the support that I had from my family. So I felt alone. I didn't know what I was doing. And that propelled me to, I had this major crisis in my life, myself, my marriage, everything. And I really don't know how, but there was a few coincidences and synchronicities. So I end up working with a coach, a soul coach, and doing this beautiful journey. And was the first time that I started asking questions like, what do I want to do here? What things do I like? What lights me up? What do I want to do with my life? And then I discovered a few books about angels, and then I was guided to become a practitioner, angelic Reiki. So one thing led to the other, and I think that what started the journey to get me where I am right now.
One of the reasons that I was drawn to speak to you was because of the work that you do when it comes to entrepreneurship, and like spiritual entrepreneurship in particular, because what I'm witnessing, and this is by no means a recent thing, but it seems to be more so now that people are, to use a cliche, stepping into their purpose, but it's true, right? Really kind of embodying that and making that transition from maybe having had a working life where they were an employee. For the most part, they'll be an employee of some sort, and then coming from that where their life is, and their output and the way that they show up to create a living, like a financial income in their life, has kind of been directed by other people, but you go to a job, you show up, you do what you need to do, you get the money, and every month, you go round and around and around. And for some people that works and they really thrive in that situation. But it seems like more and more now that people are actually honoring the fact that they don't feel satisfied with that. I think before it was like, oh, I don't feel satisfied with that, but that's work and that's life, so I'll just keep going until I retire, and then maybe I'll do something, when I'm 60 or something like that. Whereas now, and I think the pandemic and the fact that everyone was still for so long, and some people could continue to work, some people could pivot, but it gave us all pause to really reflect on what we were doing with our lives. And that was not just whether you thought that you were going to die because of some threat or whatever you thought was happening in the world or not, but it was more that when you're forced to be still, it's like, okay, you can't go to work because your offices aren't open, and day in and day out you're sitting there and going, well, you realize maybe your work can be brought home with you, so now you can work from home. But then it's like, well, if I can work from home doing this for someone else, how can I do that for other people? Like, it kind of hit people in many different ways. And it's for making that transition into turning what their purpose is into something, but also then the reality that comes with all of that when you're now responsible on all levels for bringing in new clients, new sales, whatever that looks like, to make your business thrive. But also the mind shift that you have to go through. You have to come away from where it was okay to kind of just phone in your effort, to be an employee, because especially when people are not in love with their work, they're not going to put any more than is absolutely necessary, So if you can get away with putting in like 25-30% of effort and still get like 100% of your pay, you're still going to feel a lack of something, but you'll just continue to do that, and you'll just go along with life not really giving that much. Then now when it's all for you, it's like stepping into a bigger part of yourself, showing up, having to market, getting through sales and all the things that you might feel a bit icky. And also then managing your time, because I feel that that's where a lot of people struggle when they step into this side of things. This kind of entrepreneurial, solopreneur life is managing how you spend your time and your distractions. Can you speak to as much as that is relevant to the work that you do?
Yeah, so I love to work with spiritualpreneurs or soulpreneurs. The reason is because as I open up to my spirituality, I found it really difficult to show up and to talk about things that in my in my family or how I was brought up were not talked about, and they were censored, and it was not seen as godlike thing. So because I struggled with that, and I had to overcome a lot of obstacles, because there was a time where when I started my business, I felt a bit like an imposter, in the sense that I wasn't talking about what was true to me. So I was doing things, I had a business that was great, but I knew that I was hiding a part of me. And I think that what most people might find now coming out of the pandemic, and they going back to their jobs, and after having that time perhaps to reflect, is that, am I hiding? What parts of me am I hiding? And is this still true for me? Does this still make sense? So because I was struggling to show up in a way that felt really authentic to me, where I could talk about, I don't know, angels, healing, all of the things, I had to do a lot of work around my mindsets, healing. I had to heal, and I'm still healing different parts of me that were resisting that showing up, that were fearful of showing up. And that is my passion, to work with other entrepreneurs that are also feeling that calling to talk about other things that go beyond our reality, what we see in front of us, but they don't know how to. They might struggle to show up authentically. Maybe because they haven't done it before, or because they don't have examples around them, people who have done it in the past. And because also, because I work with other healers, we kind of know the obstacles and the fears that show up frequently. I have an understanding and lots of compassion for people who are in the same situation, like whether you are in a job or have a business, but if you're feeling that something is missing, a piece is missing, because you're not showing how authentically, and you will feel that. I feel like it's my purpose to help people to awaken to that, and help them overcome those obstacles, and overcome those fears, because many times those fears are not even from this lifetime, because we know also that we have fears that come from our ancestors. So yeah, I love that.
Perfect. And what do you think, or what do you recognize and see as the most common obstacles that are facing, that you feel that you talk to more than most?
For people who are in a job and want to start a new business, perhaps the obstacle is how I do the transition, but also how do I do the transition and start a business that feels authentic to me. So I think for people to do that big transition, it has to be something that really speaks to their soul. Mm. And sometimes the obstacle is, how do I do this, and how to... Because if you are in your job, for example, let's say, and you want to start your business, perhaps you want to talk about things, let's say wellness or healing, that maybe you don't talk about with your colleagues at work. So how are you going to do that all of a sudden? So that is one of the obstacles. How do I make that transition? And people who know me, friends, family, now I'm going to talk about these things. What's going to happen? Will they judge me? What will other people say? If you have a business, you might feel, if you already have a business, you might feel like you are changing, because we are evolving, we are growing, expanding. And you might notice that now what I was doing before doesn't make sense now, or I know that I expanded in a way that I want to match that with what I'm doing. I'm talking about healing, like holistic therapies, generally speaking. So a lot of healers and holistic therapists find a common block is fear of talking about healing, or talking about how the holistic therapies can help you. And a lot of it is, again, what will other people say? Family, friends, or even strangers. I don't know, just other people. What will the public say? That is very common. But then underneath that, there are fears that come from our ancestors. So it could be, or generational, so father, mother, grandfathers, and even beyond that. So that is what we find a lot in our sessions. Those fears that you feel like it's not from here. I don't know where is it coming from, but it feels quite real.
And how do you guide people through that? Because the fear of other people's opinions is real, like 100% real. And from my own personal experience, that's probably like one of the biggest obstacles for me has been like, what will people say? What will people say? You know, and it never fully really leaves you until you dig out the roots of it. Like it can really embed itself in ways that you don't even realize. And to give an example of something that came up for me recently, literally a week or so ago, when I was in a mastermind container with my coach, and she was doing a really deep meditation. And it was like, what is stopping you from going to the next level that you say you want to do? What is it? Where's, you know, what's that coming from? She like, beautiful meditation. And then she kind of got to us and just said, okay, right, everyone just write down what it is that comes up for you. And as I was writing it, I was like, I didn't even think I was answering the question at the point. I'm like, something's coming up, but like, is that the question that she asked? Because I was just like, not quite there, but this is what came out. And what I realized is like, over time, I've got to the point where I'm able to now not listen to the voice of other people. And I've even had to make the decision to just not have those people physically in my life, because it's like, I'm tired of defending what I'm doing. It's like, I know this is my purpose. I have to get on with it, as opposed to telling you all the reasons why it's a good idea because you don't see it. It's like, I'm not going to have this conversation anymore. But what came up for me was that even though I'd physically separated, to still maintain a connection, I was still holding the belief true. Just like, and this undercover thing. And I was just like, oh my, you know, and it hit me like a sledgehammer. I'm like, I didn't even know, you know. So even though like outwardly I'm like, okay, I'm not listening to you, I'm doing my stuff, I'm showing up, I'm really talking with confidence, there was like this little bind underneath that was still holding it. When you've got those ancestral voices in you as well, you realize that you're charged with a responsibility for your family line, to evolve your family in a way that is a big responsibility, more so than even what you do to serve new people, you know, people that you don't know, strangers. It's like you are put in a position that has to break a pattern in your family. And, you know, it comes with a lot of responsibility. So even though you kind of go physically, okay, we don't speak, I don't, you know, I'm doing my thing, allow me to respectfully get on and you do yours, that maybe, like, say, there's those really old voices that you haven't dealt with that are like still coming through and holding you back. So for me, that was a really big one, to just really let go and go, listen, I recognize what it is that I'm doing here, and you have to let me do it, and you have to allow me to have that space to do it. And then, you know, we can connect again when I feel more rooted, as opposed to keep trying to pull me down, and understand that I'm moving forward, not just for myself, but for the benefit of everyone, to show what's possible, to evolve and awaken all of us, you know. You know, how do you guide your clients through that?
Yeah. And I really resonate with what you're saying, because I thought I was really lucky because I moved away from Portugal. So I didn't have the problem of being close to them. But what I found out through the years of doing this work is that actually we are still very much connected, and those cores are still here, the voices are still here. So that is really interesting. And and yeah, we sometimes think, oh, because it's not here, it's not present in my life, because I put things back in the past, well, I don't remember them, or I'm not thinking about them, they must be gone. But it's very far from the truth. And that's what I've discovered doing this work, because I had a very difficult childhood. It was quite harsh. And because I wasn't there and I wasn't remembering the things, I thought, well, it's okay until you start to dig. And I think that's what people sometimes, they might believe that, well, if I move away from this relationship or this job or this thing or the family, it's okay. Yeah, it could be, in the sense that could be the starting point. But then are there other things that you are being called to do, or to reflect on, or let go? Because yes, those voices, that those agreements, kind of agreements that we did, beliefs are still very much present. And unless we go in, and like you said, you did that during a meditation, we go into deep relaxation state and we access the subconscious. It's well, it's going to be, if we don't do that, it's going to be a little bit harder to connect with those memories or beliefs, and to go and heal, because we're not just connecting with them just to know they're there. It's to kind of bring some healing and resolve those situations. So that's what we work on, is first with my clients, is bring that awareness through a deep meditation or deep relaxation, or relaxation state. Yes. So they are able to connect with the subconscious, and then start to recognize what are those beliefs, those cords, those memories or contracts, agreements that we have done here or in the past, that are still present. And then we can resolve them and heal them.
So we're dealing with that, and we realize that's always going to be something that shows up because it's deep. And like for me, that one was like, I didn't even realize that was there. But when someone is coming to you going like, I really feel called to do something, they might have an idea of what that looks like in terms of their business. How are you guiding them to really hone in on what it is that their calling is, what their purpose looks like? What are you kind of reflecting back to them? Because, you know, there might just be this, I know I want to do something, I'm not sure what it looks like. How do you then say, okay, what kind of questioning do you bring to them to say, this is how you really find what your sweet spot is? And then as well as that, then you'll know also who it is that you are here to serve, because as much as we like to think that our stuff is for everyone, it isn't. So it's finding out then, who are you, and how do you then identify who your core client is, who your tribe is, for want of a better term.
Find out who you are. That would be a really good starting point. So yeah, we start there. I work with a modality, theta healing. So we believe that we are connecting with the creator, or gods, or divine energy, which we are all connected anyway. So when I work with my clients, so it's not through me, it's through the creator. The knowledge, the intuition comes directly from the creator. So the clients ideally feel that connection, and feel empowered to come up with their own answers. And when they connect with this space, this energy, the answers are there. And that's the beautiful thing, because we all have the answers, and we probably knew the answers before, but somehow we need, a lot of times we need a reassurance. And it could be through healing, or sometimes it's a tarot reading, and the cards are confirming what you were thinking, the insights that you had. So through that session, we would connect with that energy, and you would start to tap into who I am, what I'm here to do, what I've been called to do, what am I feeling, what are the messages that have been coming that perhaps I'm not listening to. And I think that is very important, because someone is starting and you have those insights and an intuition. Most of the time we dismiss it because many people, or most of us, we're not taught how to listen our intuition and to honor our feelings. So if you are working with a coach or a healer and you feel you have that space to tap into your intuition and you feel acknowledged and you have a kind of a confirmation that, yeah, I have these insights, I have that intuition, this is true, I'm not imagining. I think just that in itself, it's really powerful and can change a lot for that person, because I had that as well. And I still experience that all the time. Now it's a bit different because I've done this for a while, but if I'm on my own and I'm struggling with a decision and I get answers, I tend to dismiss or question, ooh, is this really true? Am I really getting the answer? But if I'm working with someone else and I have that space and I can open up and talk about it, a lot of times it's just so much easier because, well, I end up realizing that I had the answers anyway. So I think having that space to be listened to talk about things is so important. So to come back to the question, the starting point, I think, is who am I? What are the insights that I've been getting, the intuitions, and what do I feel that I'm called to do? And then from that, what is the resistance? What is the fear? When I imagine my perfect life and what I see myself doing, what are the obstacles? What could go wrong? And then we can explore a little bit further the fears, the blocks, and so on, which sometimes then they go to what will my family say, what will other people say, and so on.
And then going further, then once you've really found, you're feeling into it, you're getting an idea of what it is that you're doing, then to recognize who you're serving, who you're here to serve. How are you guiding people through that? Because I think when it comes down to looking online, when we do, like a lot of us are doing so much online work to spread the message about who we are and what we do. And there's so many people out there like talking about strategy, which is useful, and which is, you need to have some level of idea and plan and strategy also, but also then within that, like making it very streamlined so that you're speaking to the right person. So how does somebody find out or really align with who it is they're speaking about? Because everyone wants to, initially everyone comes like, yeah, my stuff's for everyone. It's like, is it really though? Like that it might be wider than you think, but you need to be speaking to a core person so that person feels spoken to. Things that I've found over the time that I speak online about what I do is it's usually the people that don't like my stuff. They're not liking, they're not commenting, like you put the stuff out there, I put the podcasts out there, I do things online. If I was just looking at, likes and shares and stuff like that, then I'd probably like sit in a corner with, over my head going, it's not working, but every now and again, then you'll get that message, that email, that DM that's like, tell me more about what you're doing. Or, suddenly I'll just have a discovery call booked in on my calendar out of nowhere, and the name will just be like, I don't recognize the name, I don't recognize them as someone who kind of pops up on my feed or anything like that. So how can you guide people to, one, have faith that if you're using the internet and social media to get your message across, to really hone in on that and also stay strong in that? So that you're speaking to the right person and knowing that the right person is always listening. They're not necessarily the person that's jumping all over your feed and liking and sharing your stuff.
Yeah, that is a very good question. Because the way that things are done online, there's so many all experts that say, oh, do this to get more engagement, do that to get more shares and this and that. So if we started in this space, it's really easy to get distracted on how many people are liking, sharing, commenting. I'm really passionate about helping people understand their fears and their blocks and beliefs. So if someone comes to me with that, like, who am I talking to? How do I keep focus? How do I stay focused on my mission? Again, we go back to what are you here to do? So I think it's building that inner strength of who am I? What am I here to do? And what is my message? And that is not in one session. That is a work that we do for the rest of our life. That's my belief, because we are always changing, growing, and expanding. In the beginning, we might start to work on our confidence, trusting ourselves, connecting with our mission. But when we have those tools and we learn to do that, every time we step up or go to a next level, we expand, we do that process again. Like, I'm being called to go in this direction. Is this true for me? What are my resistance here? What are my fears to show up in a different way? So the work is always the same, is trusting the inner guidance, releasing the blocks and the fears. So in that case is who told you that you need to show up in a certain way, for example? Where are you getting that from? What is the fear of showing up? For example, for many people is a fear of showing up, doing lives or showing their face. Usually, if people are starting, when they connect to that space of unconditional love, connecting with the source, connecting with God or the universe, and they ask those questions, usually, from my experience, they have a clear idea of who they want to work with, because they've been called to do that. They have had those insights already. I would say the work is what is holding me back, because from the people I've worked with, usually they have an idea who they want to work with. I had this client recently, and it was the first time he was starting his own business. And when we explored that, he had an idea who he wanted to work with. But then it was, how do I do this? How do I show up? What is the first step? And again, the answers come. So my work is more helping them take away the resistance, the beliefs, understanding what could be holding them back. What is the resistance there? And the other piece I think is really important when for entrepreneurs or spiritual entrepreneurs is to have a community. So talking with other people who are doing the same. And I get it. Sometimes it might be difficult because we are all online working in our homes. But I think it's so important to have that community and that space where you perhaps physically, or if not possible, even online, you get to talk with people, listen to each other, and understand that other people are going to a similar journey, how they are doing it, how they overcome their obstacles. And for me, that inspires me a lot. Connecting with other people who are doing the same. And this is something that I've been doing more of, especially connecting with spiritual entrepreneurs, because I wanted to show up and to talk about my things without the fear of how is that person going to perceive me? What are they going to say? So I had to do the work of who are the people who inspire me, who are already doing this, and to follow them, follow their work, connect with them. And that helped me a lot. So side by side, do the inner work, but also connect with other people. So you know that you are not alone. And there are more people doing the similar work that you are doing, perhaps with the same or similar mission of helping others, bringing more light into this world. And I think that is so important.
Great. And I love what you say about community as well. In person is great, but just being able to see the trajectory of people who are doing something online, you know, maybe their business is like 2, 5, 10 years ahead of you, but it kind of shows you that what your idea is possible. And also, I don't know if you experience this as well. Sometimes people say to me, well, there's like hundreds of coaches out there, there's thousands of coaches out there, there's probably millions actually. But you know, but you can't let that concern you, because there's probably so many coaches out there, but you're you, and the way that you come out authentically will then be why people want to work with you, even if you're just starting out, as opposed to someone who's got a massive platform and like shoves you in their funnel and you never really actually meet the person. You know, like it looks great, but then it depends on whether you want to be part of kind of like a big group of people, and there's nothing wrong with being part of something massive, or whether you want a little more kind of personal and bespoke experience because you've got a coach that's still in the early days of their community, where they still are able to handle like touching base with people one-to-one. You know, so there's that as well. There's another one that I thought was very important for us to speak about, and is money when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And you know, and I laugh because there's so many things that I can be with that, but the first thing is like knowing your worth and charging your worth as well, and getting through all of the like kind of the triggers that that's going to give you. And also then what I found, and I've had multiple experiences of this, and this year was when I just had to draw a line under it because I got burnt way too much, is just because you can doesn't mean you should do favors for friends and family. And friends and family could be like you minimize the cost, or you do it for free. And trust me, I've done that multiple times and I've got burnt every single time. And I'm, you know, PSA, it ain't happening anymore. Like, if you want to work with me, you're going to work with me on the level that everybody else works with me. Just because I can doesn't mean I'm going to do it for gratis. I'm not, because every time I've done that, ultimately, you know, you give an inch, someone takes a mile, or the disrespect is unbelievable. And you always want to be giving, because you're a soulpreneur and you're coming from a heart-centered place. You're learning skills that other people need as well for their business. You want to help them out, because you know what it's like to be just starting out and thinking, no, I don't have what it takes to work with that person for that level. But ultimately, it's not. There needs to be some level of exchange. And like I said, having been burnt multiple times, and then this year going, no more. I'm, you know, not even apologizing for it. You wouldn't go anywhere else and expect someone to do things to the level that I can do them for. You know, like before really digging into the coaching, for years I've been doing like online, so building websites, doing graphics, email funnels, marketing, all that kind of juicy stuff that people really need right now, that if you want a certain level, comes at a certain price. But because I was able to do it, and you know me, it's like, oh, Carol, can you do this thing? And because I wanted to help, I'd help. But ultimately, you know, I got left in the dust time and time and time again. So it stops here. So please, if you know me, don't ask me for any favors, because you're not going to get them. And I don't want you to be offended, but it ain't going to happen anymore, you know? So it was me also putting a boundary, going, I'm not helping somebody in their business by giving them professional level stuff for free, because it doesn't work like that. So, you know, I had to learn something as well. So how do you get people into the space of stop doing favors, know what you're worth, and open up to receive it?
Ooh,
You know, it's a big one, because like I got burnt and I'm not doing it again.
It's a really good point. I also got to a point that I said no, because sometimes, not saying that it will be for everybody, but sometimes you are simply not respected in what you do, or you feel not respected. And yes, that comes to boundaries and a sense of worth. And for some reason, I don't know why, when it comes to family and friends, they think it's okay to, you know, not show up or not commit and things like that. So I think when we are working on ourselves and our boundaries and sense of self-worth, that just comes to a point where it's easier to recognize, no, I won't do this anymore. Of course, it's okay to try and test it out and see if it works. If you're starting your business, I find that when we do swap skills, or when we need some help in the beginning, other entrepreneurs will be more likely to respect your work. So it might be better to ask for another entrepreneur, swap skills or something like that. And the money piece, I find it so fascinating. And I remember that years ago, I couldn't even look at my money, my bank account, also because I was starting out from zero in a new country. So I had nothing to look at. So, and I realized there was so much shame, guilt around money. And I started to hear people talking about money and the money mindset and healing money stories. And I got really curious, and I quickly realized that, yes, there were so many stories to heal, so many beliefs around money. And I started to become aware of my habits also around money. One of them, like really not wanting to look at my bank accounts, what's going in, what's going out, feeling really guilty about paying bills, or feeling, that's not in your stomach. So I wanted to work on that because, one, I feel it's really important. And of course, as a business owner, you're dealing with money. You want to receive more money, and receiving more money means that you're serving more people. So actually, I had a mentor that explained this so well. And that was really important to me. So when you're selling, you're serving. And I've never heard that before. And she was so good at teaching this and changing our mindset when it comes to sales, because we have our own stories and perceptions around selling. And for many reasons, one of them could be that because you're selling, you're showing off. And many of us are told not to show off or talk about your things or talk about what you're good at. That could be one of the reasons, but there are others. So that mentor, so she started to teach us and to tell us that actually we are serving people. So it's our almost responsibility. Or so if you want to serve people, of course, there needs to be a transaction, like you said. And that transaction, which usually it's money, I think it needs to be one that you feel comfortable with. And that doesn't mean that it has to be a high price. Because I don't believe that, when you're valuing, when you have a high sense of self-worth, that doesn't mean that you are charging more or really high price. I don't believe that is a good match. And actually, I heard someone else, a coach, talking about this, because you are always worthy no matter what. It's your sense of worth, what you feel about your own worth and deserving, that can change. But you are worthy anyway. You are deserving anyway. Just because you're here, you're son or daughter of God, creator. You're just deserving and worthy. If we're asking for the money, the same level of your worthiness would be, infinite, right? Doesn't really match. When it comes to money, there's lots of coaches, or you might hear out there, charge your worth. That doesn't make so much sense to me. For me, it makes sense to charge what I feel aligned. And that can come in different ways. It can come from you knowing that by charging a certain amount, people will pay more attention, for example. So when you said before that there needs to be an exchange, I really believe that, because when you commit with your energy, and that energy is money, time, your energy, when you commit, you are more likely to get the results. So I think as a coach, we also have a responsibility, not in a responsibility in like a heavy weight on your shoulders, but you want to help people. So when we are asking for the money, we're also asking people to commit. There is so much that we can talk about money, but I think when we work on our worth and we change our perception of sales, what it means to sell, I think it can be easier to then charge for our work. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. And I know what you say about sales, having worked in sales as well over the years in different in many different fields as well, from retail, but then in jobs that were just pure like clearly sales, the like harder sales, if you want to call it that, from the point of picking up the phone and speaking to a stranger on the other end of a line, or to doing it face to face in kind of really high pressured, I would say, environments like expos and things like that. So I really got to understand the process and the psychology of sales. And really, especially when I was doing it face to face in kind of expo situations, seeing how, being able to see the physiology of people when you were bucking up against objections. So one, I was never selling anything that was like mine. It was never anything that I 100% believed that they needed. I could see the benefits of much of what I sold, so I was able to make relatively okay money doing it. But because my conscious always came in, there came a point where I was like, I don't know if you need this. So there was always that part that was always going to come in, whereas now I'm doing something where I'm like, yeah, I can see how this can help, and it comes from a different place, but also it means that, but I still understand the process of sales, and I know where people's minds go as well when they feel that they're being sold to. It's almost like they feel that you're there, you're attacking them, and that they have to do something. So there's this real fear about what sales means and how nervous people feel around it. But I would be able to have a conversation with somebody and just literally see on their faces, and like some of them were like real micro movements that they probably didn't even realize that they were doing, and after years of doing the same thing, and in particular selling like similar products, I could hear like their mouth would say one objection, but it meant something else, or they contradict themselves in the course of the conversation, where they start with one thing, by the end of it they're using the thing that was their reason to kind of get out of the sale or to disappear, or like many different things. So like I've heard probably every objection that there is, and it was just interesting the way that it did. But also I could never lie, I could never press, but I'd work around people that were cutthroat and would just say whatever it was necessary to do to get the sale. And that's where I just was never like it was never as lucrative for me, because I just couldn't go that hard on it, because I just couldn't lie. There'd always be a part of me, there'd be parts of me going, this is not your work, this is not what, so I'd always pull back on the amount of energy that I gave it, because I knew that I wanted to do something else. So I was just there to kind of make the money that was necessary, and also just close the sales that I felt that people really wanted, that would benefit from what I was selling, as opposed to like push into people and go into the kind of the guilt, shame and fear tactics that people use to get the sale.
I
was never able to do that.
Yeah. And that's why for me, when I heard my mentor talk about selling is serving, and she really repeated that over and over again, that made a huge shift for me, because also I started to focus more, what am I offering people? Is this really going to serve people? And I think the focus changed a lot to, am I serving people? How am I serving? And when I started to, and I think there's also another shift there, because when I started to look at my product or my services, I started to value myself even more, because I realized actually I'm doing a good service and I'm really helping people. So I think it works in both ways. One, you value yourself more and what you're doing, because you're making a difference in the world. And sales becomes a service. You're serving others, you're helping others. So I think the pressure of the money, how much people are going to pay, the objections, it might alleviate a little bit more. And of course, people will always have objections. But for me, that was a big shift, focusing on the service and serving people. How am I helping, and how can I improve this? And then the sales process comes easier.
It does. And I think people feel it as well, that you're not there just to hit a target, which is what it was a lot of the time in the other sales job. It was very competitive. It was like hitting a target and almost seeing people as victims, almost bait, probably, like to be like, oh, there's another one, here we go, speak to that person, and just keep talking to them until you've exhausted them almost, and then kind of wear them down into the sales. So they've many of the times when things that I work with, where there was rarely any joy. If the sale came from somebody being worn down, I would notice, and like I said, because I just didn't have the patience for it, if someone said no a couple of times, then I'd be like, I'm going to talk to someone else. And my way of selling was that trying to find the need and how what I had met the need.
Yeah.
Whereas of course that's not necessarily going to make the most money, because not everyone needed all the things I was selling. Like a lot of the time it was just because they wanted to, or they wanted to buy something or anything like that. Whereas what I saw when I was witnessing someone who had got like beaten down into a sale, it was, the person would come out and be like, okay, then, you convinced me. It was like that kind of energy.
Yeah.
From other people, and I was just like, I don't want anyone to be like, I've convinced them of something. I want you to like feel the yes from the inside, where you're just like, yeah, come on, like how do I get started? The excitement of making that investment on yourself, as opposed to feeling like, the wording that people would use as well around some of those sales would be like, what's the damage? It's like a real kind of British term. Like, what's the damage? Is like talking about like, how much is this going to hurt me?
Yeah.
That's like, it's a very British one we'd hear all the time. Like, I laugh because I'd see that come from anyone around me who was doing like the hard sell, and they'd get to the point where, somebody like, oh, okay, then, okay, what's the damage? It would just be like this. You're like, oh my God, no. And like invariably, a lot of those people would then contact the company later on and try and get their money back, and then they had to deal with the tussle of that whole situation. So yeah, it's wanting people to feel that if they invest in working with you, that they're investing the exchange, but but they're investing in themselves. It's kind of a circular thing.
And you're right, because people will feel that energy when you're saying that. People feel when someone is trying to sell them just to get another sale. People will feel that. We all feel things. So why try to push and pressure people? As a business owner, that's something to be mindful of. Of course, your energy and how you are selling, and from what's your intention. Of course, people will feel that. It's up to us to clean that up, those stories, beliefs, and fears around money and having to sell and things like that. So we can change the perception of money, sales, so we can sell from a more authentic place.
We're wrapping up now as well. Is there anything that you want to kind of add in terms of extra piece of wisdom, or anything you want to like leave the listeners with, who are in that stage of starting their business, or they're in their business already and it's their soul's calling? And what do we really need to kind of take on board and think about now that we're moving into this new time where there's going to be more and more people really answering the call of their soul? What can you leave us with, Isabel?
What I really feel that I need to say is that if you are feeling the calling, don't dismiss it. Pay attention to it. Find other people who are doing something similar, who responded their calling, so you get inspired and motivated. Get to talk with them and see how they started, listening to podcasts like this. And I've heard so many beautiful stories from your podcast. And it's really inspiring. So don't dismiss just because you're not sure if it's true, or just because you think it's going to be hard, because it's just going to be, it's going to be there. If you don't listen to it now, it's going to keep coming back. So it's a beautiful journey. And yes, we are being called to show up, and to show our gifts and embody our own power. So yeah, that's what I really feel like saying to everyone, to get listening to those messages.
And you're right. If you don't, it's just going to haunt you. Get more and more persistent, and what are you going to do? Are you just going to ignore it, or are you going to think, or you're just going to go for it? And like you say, it's hard, but hard in a good way. I think people run away from like hard work and hard things, thinking it's going to be like impossible to do. But all I can say from anything that I have done and continue to do that I find hard, now I approach hard in a completely different way, especially if I'm faced with something where I'm like, oh my God, I just don't know how to do this. I'm like, okay, let's go in, because at some point, chipping away with it, there'll be a point in time, however long it takes. No, 3 months, 6 months, or it might just be a course that I need to do where I need to just get a new perspective on something. On the other side of it is knowledge and a different aspect of me that is just always going to feed. And as soulpreneurs as well, everything that you do to feed yourself feeds your business. It's just a win-win situation always, and that's what's so beautiful about it, I think. Like the more that you look after yourself, the more that you show up for yourself, then it just shows out, and it just brings more people in. And it's that the difference between having to go out there and like kind of fight to be heard and like do that kind of hard marketing, if you want to say, like you're trying to find the people and get the right thing. But if you show up in a way that's more and more authentically you, and kind of unraveling and showing more of yourself each time, then after a while people come to you, like it doesn't have to, after a while they want to know what you're doing, or like, what are you doing? Like, what is it that no, and that's the best kind of marketing ever, where you just show up and will attract the right people to the light as well. So if we just keep working on ourselves and showing up in our light,
it's magnetic, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So where can everybody find out about you and your work, and share a little bit more, please?
I'm a lot on Instagram. I am Isabel Gondar. I have a website which I'm working on it, but it's there, Isabel Gondar. Yeah, so social media, perhaps the best place to get in touch with me.
Thank you so much, Isabel, for your talk today as well. It's just like it's an exciting time. Even with the things that I'm doing for myself and what I'm building for myself as well, it's just like you can have an idea, you can turn it into something, you can see a need and speak to that need via your gifts as well, via my gifts. And it's just like the funnest time to be a creative person, I would say. For anyone who's thinking about it, do it.
And it's so needed. It's so needed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel, for joining me on this episode, and thank you for listening. Once again, the invitation is for you to come on over to Her Inspirations to join me on the Flow into 2024 journey. There's still time to pick up, and also plenty of time over the holiday period to recap on the previous weeks. All the links to that are in the show notes. More details on my website, carolmaywhittick.com, CarolMaewhittick. Also on Facebook and LinkedIn under Carol May Whittick, Instagram Casmic, CAZMICK. And if you're listening before Christmas, enjoy the holidays, and I'll see you in the new year. Take care.